I said it's fake news. Well, why do you keep saying it's fake news? Well, I read it in the Washington Post. The Washington Post, isn't that the same guy that owns Amazon and like is the number one shareholder in Google? Doesn't the guy like own everything? It doesn't matter. I said it was called exactly what it is. It's fake news. It's fake news. I mean, it's some kind of conspiracy theory or something. You conspiracy theory nutcases. You people are just out of your minds. Stupid conspiracy theory. Fake news. Jim Morrison once said, "Whoever controls the media controls the mind." Welcome to the Fivefold Understanding YouTube channel. Today, we have some heavy subjects at hand. Got a great show coming to y'all at the end here from the lovely Laura Ingraham. We're going to play that at the end. But before we get there, I have a couple things I'd like y'all to hear. As everybody, or at least I believe everybody's heard by now, Mr. Jones and his media outlet have been purged from YouTube. Permanently, might I add. YouTube recently told him, hit the road for the most part. Your ideas, your dialogue, your discussion, and your conspiracies, whether there's facts in them or not, are no longer wanted here. And you see, a man told me personally, quite some time ago, if you ever want to know who controls you, see who you can't criticize. And then I found out it was actually a Roman scholar by the name of Tacitus, who actually has written accounts of Jesus Christ. Furthermore, to the kids and even the noobs out there, nothing's wrong with not knowing something, okay? And in my opinion, that the point of life is learning and teaching. And hopefully we can do a little bit of that here today. And the problem is, that's what YouTube is good for. But in these days, or at least recently, you see the powers that be don't like it when we, Alex, punch holes in their echo chamber. Because overly prideful people never want to know they're wrong about anything, even when they really are. Now, before we get to that really juicy piece that the lovely, also lovely Laura Ingraham had on her show yesterday, we're going to listen to just, I think it's about 90 seconds of Alex here, just in memoriam, if you will. This is interesting.
Talk about the Bohemian Club. What is that for people out there who don't know about this, what some would say secret society?
Well, in 1878, a group of artists and newspaper reporters in San Francisco set up a retreat about 60 miles north of San Francisco, outside the tiny mining town of Monterey. But by the turn of the century, U.S. presidents were traveling there once a year to take part in the revelry. And it began to get more and more occultic by the 20s and 30s. And we know this from some of the internal annals of the Bohemian Club that we've gotten a hold of from some of the California universities that have been the official archivist of the Bohemian Grove. And so there was a lot of occultic rituals, Masonic rituals, and things that go on there, but none of it had ever been caught on video. And on July 15th, 2000, July 15th is always when they kick off the Bohemian Grove. It had been rumored that they engaged in this strange ritual where they burnt the effigy of a child before this 45-foot stone idol that looks like a bull or a horned owl. And so I snuck into the Bohemian Grove with a hidden camera and shot the first and only footage of.
Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones snuck into the grove and filmed the giant owl.
Win victory without us. Hail fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free. Again, ladies and gentlemen, when you see that black edge coming in, that was the field from the camera. There you see the funeral pyre burning with the effigy of a human. Or it could be real, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of strange going on. In that area of Northern California. This is what the establishment is into right here in America. The cremation of care. This was July 15th, 2000.
The conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. There's Moloch itself, the giant horned owl that the elites, our ambassadors, presidents, ex-presidents, secretaries, treasurer, you name it, especially people that own the media. New York Times, Washington Propaganda Post, CNN. I mean, how do you think the Washington Post stays in business? Ain't nobody buying newspapers. What, are people really buying online subscriptions? No. The elite keep them going because they are the cover-all, cover-up propaganda machine. That's how it works. Take those owls, right? The owl that's hidden right there in the dollar bill. An aerial view over Washington, D.C. You can look right at that owl right there. Or there's that one that's hidden on the $1 bill. Up there on the left corner of the upper right side. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, look at good old Scott Snyder's court owls. What do you think, he just made that up? Just one day, boom, came to him. There's a lot of truth behind all this. All those lies have 80% truths to them. I've actually been inside a Masonic hall, and there's one thing I can 100% factually tell you. 33s are in there. They're on their logo right here, and this is the bloody Wikipedia page. And what's really interesting is the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. You can trace back to the fall of the Templars and those beautiful churches that they have all over the UK and how they connect the Michael line. All this stuff is researchable. One thing I'd like to note real quick before we get to our feature is within the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the degree structure. This will be quick. You can go right here in Wikipedia and read about it yourself. The highest level, being that of the 33rd degree. Your M&M, right? Your Master Mason. 2 3 sideways, 2 M's. Conspiracy theorist. One of the Masons' creed is they hide in plain sight. That's how they work their magic. Lesser magic to a degree. They hide in plain sight. See any 33s on here? Or how about when you got your pad or your phone and you're about to click on that Gmail logo and get into your emails? It's a Masonic apron, people. It's 100% a Masonic apron. Do some research on the Gmail logo and the very, very, very old Masonic apron and how the apron itself covers the good old cock and balls, right? Another ancient American fraternal organization, right? And that's where we get our obelisks from. It goes back to the ancient Egyptian mythology and Osiris and how the god Horus was born after Set chopped up the god Osiris into 7 pieces, scattered them across the world. Isis couldn't find him in time. She needed to have sex with the only piece she found. Guess what piece she found? And that's what the Egyptian obelisk is an allegorical reference to. Everything's right here in front of you guys. It's been there the whole time. Okay? And this is just a small fraction of it. And another thing I'd like to note about the Masons and the ritual, like it goes back to Scotland. There's always a group within the group. I mean, remember high school, the table of jocks, you could say? Sure, there's a whole group of jocks, but within that group of jocks is another group of jocks. There's always a group within the group. And at one point, the Masonic order that built the churches was once Templar rooted, got infested by old Druid ceremonies, pagan ceremonies. And that's what we just witnessed in that Alex Jones footage. Moving forward. And this right here being maybe one of my favorites. When they say Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist. Just a conspiracy theory. Fake news. What are you, stupid? The Washington Post would let us know if something was afoot. Right after conspiracy theorist Alex Jones was fired, Chris Murphy said this. And he ends it, these companies, as in the media outlets that lobby him and put him into power, keep him in power, must do more than just take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it. It's all about money. It's a lie. Whatever happened to Truth Matters? Remember that one? Truth Matters? Well, ask yourself this. What does the truth matter when staging narratives to advance agendas becomes more profitable? Gaslighting also becomes more manageable with people like Jones out of the way, right? Thus leveraging their fulcrum for control. And what do we know about control? They say content is king. And control? He who controls the information controls. This mass censorship crackdown is just as crooked as anything else you just seen in this video. And now I'm going to let Laura take it home from here. Enjoy, guys. Subscribe to the Fivefold Understanding YouTube channel right here, where the saga always continues. And like I said, I'm going to let Laura Ingraham in this fabulous segment you guys are about to see take us out of here.
Remember what Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg told a Senate hearing back in April?
There is certain content that clearly we do not allow, right? Hate speech, terrorist content, nudity, anything that makes people feel unsafe in the community. From that perspective, that's why we generally try to refer to what we do as a platform for all ideas.
A platform for all ideas, really? Over the past few months, Facebook and other tech giants have given us ample reason to doubt that proclamation. The latest example started early yesterday morning when Apple pulled several podcasts associated with the controversial and often incendiary Alex Jones from the iTunes store. Facebook followed suit, unpublishing 4 of Jones' pages, claiming the videos on those pages violated that hate speech policy. Hours later, YouTube decided it wasn't going to miss out on all that censorship fun, and YouTube suspended the Alex Jones channel with its 2.4 million subscribers. Well, it's easy to dismiss concerns about big tech's actions, all coordinated, it seems, to shut down Jones, because, of course, he's the media's poster child for conspiracy theories. But this isn't about Alex Jones. This is about freedom and our access to information from the sources we as individuals trust and like. If big tech can control the information flow, then they can also perhaps even influence the outcome of the midterms and even future presidential elections.
Essentially, Alex Jones has been deleted, digitally deplatformed from these websites. You wonder if he'll have any influence going forward, because these private companies do have an incredible amount of control over the internet.
And that's the point. Controlling who has a voice and who doesn't on these monster platforms is tantamount to limiting speech. And as you'll see in a moment, it's also viewpoint discrimination. Back in February, Facebook launched a new algorithm that would cause top conservative pages to see a dramatic drop in traffic. And this included personal pages, by the way. President Trump's Facebook page saw a 45% drop. Diamond and Silk said their content was similarly blocked on Facebook.
Facebook, along with other social media sites, have taken aggressive actions to silence conservative voices such as ourselves by deliberately restricting and weaponizing our page with algorithms that censor and suppress our free speech.
Next, it was YouTube, who let conservative influencers build up an audience for years, only to end up limiting their channels, temporarily demonetizing them, with no warning at all. This has happened to conservative commentators like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager. For many on the left, the view seems to have become that if you can't beat them, prevent them from speaking. Just look at what's happened to conservative speakers on college campuses. And after liberal radio hosts flopped on Air America, remember them? Well, some Democrats sought to revive the fairness doctrine to snuff out conservative talk radio. Thankfully, that went nowhere. But now they've moved on to the internet and squelching political speech there. A leaked proposal circulating among Senate Democrats outlines a detailed plan to take over the internet by regulating digital platforms and purging content they deem harmful or inaccurate. In other words, information they don't like. It would require social media users to be tracked and labeled according to how reasonable their content is deemed to be. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy even hinted at this yesterday, tweeting, "Infowars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it." How dramatic. Translation, the survival of the Democratic Party depends on it. There's an old saying in TV and radio that content is king. Same goes for the internet. If If they can shut down political speech on the grounds that it's hateful, you have to ask, where does this end? If you want to see hate, check out some of the comments on my Twitter feed after the show tonight. Then you'll see hateful. Why do leftists, by the way, always seem to escape big tech censors? I don't know, Louis Farrakhan comes to mind. He's a casual racist, of course, and an anti-Semite who called white people, quote, potential humans, praised Hitler, and blamed Jews for 9/11. Well, he's still standing tall on his Facebook page, has 1 million followers. And what about those who traffic in violence? If Facebook really cares about standards of safety, I don't think they'd be granting Antifa chapters from coast to coast where their pages can plug their next thuggish beatdown of conservatives with their black hoods and all. And by the way, if there's so much concern over conspiracy theories like the one Alex Jones peddles, well, do moments like this give social media kings pause?
The fact of the matter is, he's not only bad because he's a liar, he's bad because he doesn't know how to inspire people or evoke that emotion in them of
what about his rallies?
Knowing. And first of all, people are paid, Chris. You know that. People were paid since he went down on the escalator. He pays people to show up at those
but
rallies.
I don't.
Trump pays people to go to his rallies. That'd be a lot of money. She still has a YouTube channel. The truth is, we conservatives always want more political speech, not less of it, even when it's offensive to us. Our only point usually about speech is limiting it if there's a direct incitement to violence or material that's injurious to children. But political speech in general, we want more. Now, while Facebook and Apple are private companies and thus aren't state actors for First Amendment purposes, they better be really careful with these moves to circumscribe certain groups' political speech. Because voters in the future, they might just demand that Facebook, Twitter, YouTube be treated more like public utilities that have to operate in the public interest. For instance, a utility can't refuse to give electricity to a family because they disagree with their views, or, heaven forbid, because they're of a different race. They act in the public interest. Ted Cruz, by the way, in response to the Alex Jones purge, said tech companies have, quote, a degree of power and an ability to censor that William Randolph Hearst, at the height of yellow journalism, could never have imagined. They have the ability, if there is a speaker who is disfavored, simply to silence the speaker. Your words float off into oblivion and nobody hears them. Well, he's right about their power. The big 5 tech companies are now worth an estimated $4 trillion. Well, that figure puts them above the GDP of all but 7 countries on the planet. The immense size of these companies is concerning, but so too is the speed with which they can succumb to external pressure. Point in case. Just 3 weeks ago, Mark Zuckerberg defended keeping Infowars on his platform.
We look at the things that are getting the most distribution. If people flag them as potential hoaxes, we send those to fact checkers. And if those fact checkers say that it is provably false, then we will significantly reduce the distribution of that content.
Why don't you want to just say, get off our platform?
Well, look, as abhorrent as some of this content can be, I do think that it gets down to this principle of giving people a voice.
Well, right. So why did he end up caving here? Well, we'll continue to demand answers for you. Remember when disgraced FBI agent Peter Strzok texted Lisa Page about an insurance policy to keep Trump from getting elected? Remember that? Well, maybe, just maybe, these latest moves are the beginning of big tech's own version of an insurance policy to see that someone with Trump's views never reaches a position of authority in government